So I want to share a few things that are the concerns mostly that our group shared, as well as their suggestions, because you'll have an opportunity in the next session to actually look at the charts themselves. So I'm going to just do a real quick kind of rundown. And we were in the area of government, and that included Department of Law, Department of Administration, and the Office of the Governor. And by consensus, the entire group, both sessions, decided to give all the money to education. Okay, I wish, but that didn't happen. So first, to start with some of the concerns. And it's almost like a true test of our Alaskanness. Like if we didn't balk at the process, maybe we're really not that Alaskan. So lots of people had some concerns, but also I think that they'll be fleshed out as we go through. And there were really good concerns. One of the other things that was mentioned was that the segregating of our personal expertise and knowledge from the call to ask what would most Alaskans want was a hard tension for people to try to maneuver through. Inherently, one of the other things was that these are inherent core functions of government, and no matter what our determination of criticality might be, it's really clear that we have to have the functioning of these core areas. And a point that was shared was that these core functions existed before statehood when we had no money. Another tension was between valuing services versus wanting to get in a conversation about the money and how much everything cost and what should be cut. And one of the things that became really apparent was that it was the conversation about efficiencies that people really are excited to get into. There was also a concern around the educational aspect of the budget dialogue. Kind of a moment of reflection was around, will the public be misled if we oversimplify this process too much? And one of the examples of that, and I thought it was a really great one, was how complicated the state is that we can't make blanket reductions in services if we don't really know the content of what those services are. And the example that was given was within the Department of Law and Administration for both public defenders and prosecutors. Prosecutors can get evidence through the law, through law enforcement, whereas public defenders have to actually hire and seek outside and use outside resources to get the same kind of access to evidence. So a blanket reduction in that area would actually be harmful. Some of the suggestions to benchmark against what other governments who are similarly situated, so not just other state governments, but rather other countries and territories that are similar to Alaska, like the Northwest Territories in Canada or Nunavut. Look for ways to partner with tribes. There are opportunities to partner with tribal courts and multiple other areas. Consider the impacts on the municipalities. Don't just push everything onto the munis. There was another concern that sometimes the assumptions that underlie some of these core functions may not be being questioned deeply enough, so we have to challenge what those underlying assumptions might be. For instance, an assumption might be that a centralized government is the best for Alaska because that's how we do it. Perhaps the question is, just because we've done it this way, is it the right way? Make sure that rural Alaska and our villages do not suffer. Just because the costs to provide services are more expensive doesn't mean that the people are less worthy of those services. The other suggestion, and really actually some excitement about this, was that people are ready to talk about the revenue. People are ready to start putting some ideas out there and be innovative about how we actually fill the gap, because the message was heard yesterday that just cutting services isn't going to get us to where we want to be. Which leads right into the last point, which is that kind of overall for both of our sessions, it wasn't that it was so much we need less government. It was more of a we need to be more efficient with our government. And one of the things that also came up in a conversation on the way over here was around, we're talking about right-sizing government, but we don't quite know if we're all on the same page with what that government and that vision of where we're going should be. So there's also a need and a question and a request for conversation about vision setting and about knowing where we actually want to go before we create a budget to match it. Goodness, sheesh, how up?